Today I decided to teach my kids about friction, the Action Lab way.
I don't know what to do now.
This might look impossible, but right now static friction is holding him against the wall. After I successfully held the younger kids, I decided to try my oldest, who's now bigger than me. If static friction really works the way physics says it should, I should be able to hold him up. I think. In this video, I'm going to show you why it seems so easy to hold someone up against a wall. In discussing this, we'll run into one of the deepest mysteries in physics, where the equations become undefined and even paradoxical in basic friction problems. And then we'll see if I was able to successfully hold my son up. But before we continue, I want to tell you about the sponsor for this video, Lian. They sent me their new Lian Pit Kit S1, and I've been using it all week to organize my house and print pictures. The Pit Kit S1 uses a high-precision thermal print head, so it doesn't need ink or cartridges. All the color is inside the sticker paper itself. The printer heats different layers in the paper to create the image, then a tiny internal blade automatically cuts out the shape for you. And the setup took only about a minute. You just plug it in, load the paper, open the app, and then it's ready to go. And it also connects straight to your phone through the Lian app. What's really cool is the AI Smart Cut and AI Auto Subject selection inside the app. You just upload a photo and the AI instantly finds the main subject, removes the background, and creates the perfect cut outline for you. Also, you can use the AI Lab in the app to create different style cartoon versions of whatever pictures you take. Here's a cartoon version of the same sticker I printed earlier. This is so cool. We use the Lian Pit Kit S1 to make labels for toy bins, backpacks, lunch boxes, chargers, and even in the pantry. My kids even drew their own characters, and with one tap the AI outlined them and the printer cut them out automatically. You can also use it for DIY projects like custom water bottle stickers, personalized gifts, scrapbooking, or decorating notebooks and laptops and computers. Also, Lian has completely upgraded the sticker adhesiveness this year, so you don't have to worry about the stickers peeling off. They stick really well, actually. So if you're interested, now's a great time to check it out because Lian is having a big Amazon Prime Day sale with their lowest prices available. So click the link in the description to view the product and learn more. Now let's get back to our experiment. Frictional force is equal to the friction coefficient times the normal force. The normal force is how hard the object is being pushed against the surface. So for an object just sitting on a horizontal table, the normal force is equal to its weight because the object is pushing down with its weight. Now with these definitions in place, we can start to understand what happens when we hold a person up against a wall. For example, let's take this block. If I place it against the wall, it's going to slide straight down because there's no normal force pushing it against the wall. But if I push on the block, I can increase the frictional force by increasing the normal force until that frictional force exactly equals the force of gravity pulling it down, so it stays up. So with really high friction coefficients, this can actually give us a little bit of an advantage. If I solve for the required pushing force by dividing by the friction coefficient, you can see that if I have a friction coefficient below 1, that means that I have to push it against the wall with more force than it weighs. But if my surface has a super high friction coefficient above 1, let's say it was 1.1 in this case, then I only need to push it up against the wall with about 90% of its weight. But friction coefficients above 1 aren't that common. So let's see what the friction coefficient of a person against a wall is. To measure this, I'm just going to measure the force it takes for me to start sliding on this piece of wall here. Okay, so I calculate depending on what's touching, whether it's my skin or my pants or my shirt, I get a friction coefficient that ranges from 0.25 up to maybe 0.5. So that means to keep them up against the wall, I would have had to be pushing from anywhere from twice their body weight to 4 times their body weight. But it wasn't that hard to hold them against the wall. But why? Well, look how I'm holding them up. I'm pushing at about a 45-degree angle. So some of my push is going to push them against the wall, and some is reducing their effective weight. So if we combine them both, we get this equation. So now we can calculate the weight supported as a function of the push force required, and something surprising happens. The x-axis is how much they weigh, and the y-axis is how hard I need to push against them at a 45-degree angle. Once the friction coefficient gets above about 0.4, the force I need to apply is actually less than the person's weight. In other words, I'm not really lifting them. I'm using the wall to redirect my force into friction, and that friction is helping support them. That's why holding someone against a wall can feel much easier than simply picking them up.
Don't drop him!
So at first glance, friction seems simple. Push harder and friction increases. Push less and it decreases. But hidden inside these seemingly simple laws is a paradox that's puzzled physicists for over a century. For example, let's look at the friction at the tip of a pencil as it tips over. The solution to this problem looks like this if we try to solve for the normal force of the tip of the pencil. Now this equation looks kind of scary, so let's just graph it instead. I'll graph the normal force versus the angle of the pencil as it falls. So if I do it on a normal tabletop with a friction coefficient of 0.4, then we can see that the normal force increases as it falls and then decreases, and then the pencil tip lifts off the ground at some point, and the normal force drops to 0. But now watch what happens. If I put the pencil on some very rough sandpaper with the friction coefficient really high, like 1.8 or something, then in real life we can see the pencil still falls pretty normally. But now watch what happens in our equation. You can see that the equation shoots off to infinity and also then suddenly comes back in the negative, implying that the table is pulling up on the pencil, which is impossible. These strange behaviors became known as the Painlevé paradox, and they reveal that friction may be far more mysterious than it first appears. Not only do the equations start predicting infinite and impossible values, there's an even more mysterious spot called the G-spot. And no, in case you were wondering, the name for this actually comes from a scientist named Christophe Genot, who first studied this special configuration here. The G-spot is the point at which the governing equations of friction become undefined. We end up with a 0 divided by a 0. At this point, the equation becomes undefined and can't predict what will happen next. It's completely indeterminate at this point. So during this transition or near it, friction can become unpredictable and highly sensitive to tiny disturbances. So we run into situations called dynamic jam and chatter, like when chalk skips across a chalkboard when you're trying to write, or when brakes squeal, or when machine tools chatter while cutting a metal. All of these situations happen in this regime where friction behaves highly unexpectedly. I always find it surprising when some of the simplest ideas in physics, like friction, become unsolvable or even outright wrong under certain situations. This ultimately points to the idea that even our basic friction laws are incomplete. So that's why in order to see if I can hold someone up bigger than me, I just have to try it myself. So let's see if I can hold up my oldest son against the wall using nothing but friction and a good angle.
You ready?
And thanks for watching another episode of the Action Lab. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section and I'll try to get to them. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next time.